Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, it's Richie from Richie Studios, and today we're going to be talking about Nintendo's new OLED model. Yeah, the Nintendo Switch OLED model. It's pretty much a Switch with an OLED screen, a LAN port, and a better kickstand. Also, it has better audio in general than the regular Switch. It has much better audio. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not a revolutionary change. It's not the Switch Pro that everybody was talking about. Even though leakers and people, industry insiders, they're still saying the Switch Pro exists. So yeah, I got a couple of things to say about this. I think in general, as a system, this is pretty cool. I think that for people who don't own a Nintendo Switch, this is going to be worth it for them to buy. Obviously, if you already own a Switch, I don't see a reason for you to get this. Personally, I'm not going to buy one unless my Switch breaks. So, in general, I think this is more for people who are getting into the Switch right now that don't have a Switch. And I think that's a good thing. Like, overall, it's an overall good thing. It's a better Switch. You can say whatever you want, that, oh, this should have been here from the beginning. Yes, I'll agree with you that probably they should have made a better system from the beginning. But the fact that we're getting a better system at all is a good thing. A better model of the system, that's nothing but a good thing. It's a good thing in general, even though it's not really important for you to upgrade to this system because there aren't really any performance upgrades. There's no 4K or 60 FPS or stuff like that. It's the same chipset. It's just the same Switch with a new screen and a couple new features added to it. So, like, if you don't really feel the need to upgrade, you don't have to. So people who don't own a Nintendo Switch are going to be in a way better position than I was when I bought the Switch. So this is a good thing in general. A lot of people are disappointed that this isn't the Nintendo Switch Pro that was rumored for months and months and months by many people. Rumored the Switch Pro that it was going to be 4K with DLSS technology. And there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people talking about this right now, not just about the fact that this isn't the Switch Pro, but also about the fact that perhaps and most likely the Switch, quote unquote, Switch Pro still exists, but this is just a different model. Like, there's a lot of people talking about the fact that they could still release the Switch Pro in 2022. There's even like Samus Hunter. She's a well-known leaker on the internet. She's been right 98.9% of the time. She's been completely right on her information. And she's even been stating that we're still going to be seeing Switch games until 2024, meaning that we still have a long way to go. And easily next year with Zelda releasing, Nintendo could announce a Switch Pro that, runs games better. That's the one with higher performances. So I don't understand why some people believe it's going to be way too late if they release a Switch Pro in 2022, because we're still getting great games and the Switch is still selling like crazy. People are still buying it. Old games are still selling on the Switch. So I don't see the issue. There's no problem with the Switch like getting a better upgrade later than now in its life, because there is still a lot of time for Nintendo to improve the system and to build upon it. We don't know how long the system's gonna live. It's selling faster than ever. It's selling millions and millions of copies every year, and every year it sells higher and higher. Last year it sold 28 million copies, which is absolutely insane. And Nintendo does expect a drop this year, but they're still gonna keep selling. As long as they're making good games and the system is still performing well, they're still going to keep making more games. And if the Switch is going to be around until 2020, let's say 2025 or something like that, an upgrade on 2022 doesn't seem unreasonable. That still leaves it with 3 more years of the system to go. And sure, a 9-year life cycle doesn't seem likely since consoles usually last about 8 years, but considering how well the system has been selling, and even though it's getting older and older, I'm pretty sure Nintendo's going to want to refresh it, man, no matter what. It's going to keep selling, it's going to keep making money, and people are going to keep buying it. And if Nintendo refreshes it, it's only going to extend its life even more, because Nintendo themselves said they wanted the Switch to have a long life. And we don't know what that means. Easily that could mean 8 years, that could mean 7 years, that could mean 9 years. Nobody knows. See, and here's the thing. there's a possibility that Nintendo wanted to release this new 4K 60 FPS DLSS technology Switch in 2021, and this was probably going to be it. The Switch OLED model was probably going to be the brand new Switch Pro, as people have been calling it. Everybody knows it's a made-up name. But it couldn't happen because of the fact that the pandemic happened and a lot of supply chains are suffering because of this. Newer chipsets are harder and harder to find. The parts are a lot harder to manufacture and get to places fast enough. So I just feel like Nintendo didn't have the time, didn't have like the resources to, manufacture a brand new system. Obviously, the Switch isn't suffering as much as the PS5 and Series X is because it's an older chipset, so it's easier to find, it's easier to manufacture. But like the fact that these newer chipsets are suffering means that Nintendo they just couldn't release a brand new Switch like that because it wasn't going to be feasible in general. So that's another theory that's going on around the internet, that Nintendo just couldn't do it. So they tried to refresh the Switch in some way, meaning they did the Switch OLED. So yeah. Another thing I want to say in the end is that all the arguments that are popping out with the Switch OLED were going to be inevitable. If Nintendo would have released a Switch Pro with the 4K and DLSS technology and all that stuff, people would have still been arguing. People would have still been saying stuff like, this is what we should have gotten from the beginning. Oh, you're seriously making me buy another system. Like, arguments were going to be inevitable. If anything, I feel that with this Switch OLED, people aren't going to feel as bad as they would if a Switch Pro would release, if they already bought a Switch, because it only has a couple tiny new extra features. So it doesn't make the gap between regular Switch and Switch OLED that big. It's just a newer screen. It's just a couple of new features, a new kickstand, a LAN port like right there on the dock, nothing else. So either way, whenever the Switch Pro does releases at some point, because I do feel it's still happening, we're still getting a higher performance Switch. We don't know how long the Switch is going to live. We don't know how Nintendo's going to treat it. If they're going to treat it like the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, where they had higher processor and it got so many exclusive games that it eventually transitioned to that system. I don't know. We don't know what's the future of the Switch and how things are going to roll out from here, but here's the Switch OLED, and in general, I just want to say that it's a good thing. It's a good system for people who don't own a Switch. And if you don't own one, this is probably the best option you got right now on the market. If you don't want to spend the extra money, you can always buy a regular Switch or a Switch Lite. And that is all for today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you liked the video, comment down below. If you didn't like the video, comment down below as well. This has been Richie from Richie Studios. I'm your host. Now and always, take care.